Okay, this next one is, how do you decide which cases to pursue and which ones shouldn't be pursued?
When we decide whether or not to issue charges in a case, there are 4 things that we look at. Number 1, has a crime been committed? Number 2, do we know who committed the crime? Number 3, can we prove to a jury beyond a reasonable doubt that this person committed the crime? And number 4, is there anything about this crime which maybe it wouldn't be in the community's interest or the public interest to prosecute? So those are really the 4 factors that we look at. And in my career, I've had cases where once we filed charges, through further investigation, I started to have doubts about whether the person really committed the crime. And recently I had a murder case where the defense did more and more investigation, and I became convinced that this person didn't commit the crime, and so I dismissed the charges. And that's what prosecutors do. We don't just rack up convictions. Our job is to seek and do justice. Sometimes people ask me, well, what do you do if you don't think somebody's guilty? You know, that's not really a hard question for a prosecutor. That's an easy question. We dismiss the charges. Defense attorneys have an obligation to represent their client effectively and diligently, whether or not they think that the client's innocent or guilty. So in a situation where I have a doubt about somebody's guilt, I'll dismiss those charges.
Well, I've done that job at the district attorney's office, both as a deputy DA. I was one of the filing deputies for several years, and as well I've also mentioned the decisions I made as the sexual assault supervisor. It's important to understand that we have tremendous power as district attorneys, deputies in the office, because if we file a criminal case against you, we can ruin your life if we make the wrong decision. So it's very important as the leader of this organization to set standards. And once I came into the office, I had supervisory training, which had never been done before in the office, because it's important that we have accountability, that we are consistent, so that we are charging everyone the same. And I think it's important to mention that I have not done a favor for a campaign contributor. That the case my opponent is talking about is a case that an attorney who supported me called, and I referred him to the supervisor of the unit of the case he was talking about. It was an 18-year-old who had stolen a computer, and he pled guilty to a misdemeanor petty theft, but instead of a misdemeanor grand theft, which was the charge he had been asked to plead to before, his life wasn't ruined. An 18-year-old who made a stupid decision by stealing a computer's life wasn't ruined by having to plead to a different misdemeanor, which would have affected his ability to come into America. He was studying at Stanford as a Mexico City a student, and that decision did not ruin his life.